bass.
Did you ever imagine at the time that some of these tracks would just live on decades later? And
No, are you kidding me? Oh my God. And no, because let's see, Coomba's retired now, Marvin's retired. The from those days, from the nine that are still on stage playing live now is Diamond, myself, and Chet, and everyone else. They've been with the band for for a number of years and stuff. But from back in those days, we're the only ones left. We're the last ones standing.
Yeah, thank God you are, and still carrying it on.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Um,
Can't wait to get back out there.
Oh, I know. This has been a drag for everybody. Yeah.
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 But we've been doing our just due and staying inside and everything that they have been telling us to do, and we're standing at the gate with our engines waiting for them to wave the flag so we can go.
So we touched on contradiction, and you mentioned the rock thing, and that track certainly had some of that rock thing going on with the guitar.
Yeah.
And then Angel came after that.
Right.
Did you feel like the hits started, becoming less frequent, in terms of, big hit records or singles? Did you feel like the songs weren't maybe quite as strong, or do you feel like maybe the promotion wasn't the same, or times were changing, or what was happening?
Well, what I felt like is that we were really trying to outdo ourselves way too hard. So we were being overly creative, which is like using a double negative in a sentence, it cancels out. So that we were very super critical of ourselves, and in being super critical, you can, critique yourself right out of your own pocket.
Mm.
And at a certain point, yeah, definitely the times were changing because disco came in. Disco. And we even did a tune called Everybody Disco.
On the hits package, yeah.
Right. Right.
But you still had some really unique sounding tracks coming, like Body Vibes, very unique track.
Yeah, the beginning. I love the beginning of that Body Vibe. It's funk.
You're doing all kinds of tinkering on the keys on that one.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it actually ends on your hit too. It just boom, and that's the end.
Yeah, man. It's been a wild and crazy ride, and I've enjoyed it every minute of it. I never thought the ride would last this long, and I thank God that it has. And for as long as it's going to run, I'm going to ride it.
Why do you think ultimately the group I know Sugar and here you guys kind of came in and out, and Jones stuck with it for a while. But why did things kind of break up at the end of the '70s?
Uh, it's a combination. It was a combination of things. It was a combination of um, all those advances that had been against royalties. Um, they started catching up with us as far as like, okay, we're like, okay, well, we need some money. Well, you can't get any money because you maxed out. And and then the IRS was on us. Okay, so you owe this much. Okay, and a lot of things like that, and financial reasons. Okay, and folks had to do what they had to do. One thing I know for certain, and uh, I took a hiatus uh, because Satch fired Chet, and when I asked the reason for it, there was no sustainable reason that none that made any kind of logical sense to me. And so I told him, well, if he goes, I'm walking out the door too. And Seth said, well, there's the door. And I said, well, here I go. And so the next thing that happened was I took a hiatus, Diamond took a hiatus, and the three of us started a group called Shadow
Mm-hmm.
uh, on Electra Asylums.
3 albums, right?
Yeah, we did 3 albums.
I really love Sinister Way
Yeah.
and Shadow in the Streets.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, those 2 tracks are my favorites, I think.
yeah. Those are my favorite, and um, the very, very, very first one, uh, "I Need Love" off the very first album. The arrangements before the actual vocal started, I mean, I'm in love with that arrangement because it's just so funky with the horns and the parts.
Hmm. Did
Yeah,
Did you feel like you guys got the support you needed for that project, or how'd you feel about it?
we got uh, we got a lot more support than I actually thought we would get, which was good. Um, and in the result, the end result is I don't think uh, they didn't know how to market us. You know, they didn't know what label to put on it.
And it was a big transition from the '70s into the '80s with disco weaning, and then sort of this new breed of like pop R&B type music on the radio. So
Right,
yeah.
right. It was, and so they didn't know. They really didn't know how to uh, market us. They even brought in as a co-producer on our projects. They brought in Leon Ware, who had co-produced a lot and written a lot with Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, and we even played on a couple of his projects. So we stayed busy.
Well, I know you stayed really busy because I know you did a lot of stuff with the Troutmans. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so fellow Dayton connection there, and
yeah. Well, yeah, I knew Roger. Okay, well, Sugar introduced me to Roger. Uh, and Roger and Sugar were from the same city, Hamilton. And I knew Roger because Roger was still coming over Sugar's house during the times that we were touring, and he was still getting like guitar lessons, getting pointers and stuff from Sugar. And Sugar and I lived like right next door to each other. So uh, after I came after the Electro Asylum thing with Shadow fell through, I moved back to Dayton, and that's when Roger had come out with More Bounce to the Ounce. And they had stumbled upon, they had opened their door. And Sugar told me, he said, man, why don't you go up and see if Roger will give you some. He said, I'm sure Roger will give you some studio work. I said, okay. So I went there for studio work, and they wound up hiring me as one of their producers and writers.
So Roger actually got guidance on guitar from Sugar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes, he did.
Wow. Because he was a heck of a player himself, Roger. I saw him a number of times, and
Yeah.
yeah.
He got a lot of that trickery and stuff he would do on the guitar from Sugar.
Hmm.
There's no words for me to describe Sugar. It's just not. They're not in a dictionary anywhere. Let's just start with phenom and take it up to a few levels above that. Okay.
And just such an enormous influence vocally on a whole generation of singers.
Yeah. Yeah. He told me, he said, Beck, I'm not a singer. He said, I'm a stylist. I said, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, well, you can say that about Michael Jackson and a lot of the most famous ones.
Right.
Where does
Right.
singer and stylist, where do they intersect? And right?
Right. Right.
Frank Sinatra was a stylist too, probably.
They called them crooners back in that day.
Yeah. So, is there anything in particular that you worked on with Roger, or that stable of acts that you were like really proud
Oh
of?
my God. Yeah. I Can Make You Dance. Uh, uh, Dance Floor. Uh, Spend My Whole Life with You. Uh, there was Roger had at one time, I think because they had Troutman Productions, and then they had a stable of acts, that they were with a stable of different record companies whom they were producing acts for, and they would be gone on the road, and I'd be in the studio doing the music and stuff for different acts of theirs. And they'd come back, and Roger would put on his parts, and Lester would put on his parts, and then we'd do the horns, and then go back on the road, you know.
So yeah, I know they had Shirley Murdock and the Human Body. It was Human
Right.
Body and
Body. Oh my goodness. There was one project called Shelley, and there was another one called Dick something. And not to mention Zap
and Roger on solo. Yeah.
and Roger.
Um,
Yeah,
and,
I was writing for all of those.
wow. And then Sugar had
and
his.
especially with Shirley, 'cause Shirley, as we lay, that was myself and Larry Troutman, Larry Roger's brother. He was a great lyricist.
Yeah, that was her biggest hit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sugar, around that same time, had his only solo record out too. And I know you helped on that, right?
And that was produced also through the Troutman camp, and I played on that as well.
Mm-hmm. And then I remember you guys tried a comeback. I'm not sure how deeply involved you were with it. That record was called Back in the late '80s.
Back, yep, in the '80s. Yeah, I was with it. It kind of, the touring started kind of falling flat on its face, and I had too many bills, too many IRS bills, and too many child support bills. I had to go. I had to just keep working. So I said, guys, I got to go.
I saw the band play at the Strand in Los Angeles in support of that album around then, and I'm not sure if you were at that show.
I don't think I was.
Yeah, they had a Dorch on bass,
Right.
um, and what really surprised me was no horn section. I was like, I don't know how players classics without real horns.
Without horns, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we had been talking about it. Sugar had wanted me to come with his Sugar's Ohio players, and Diamond had wanted me to come, and I was like, why don't we just get back together? Period. Okay, and if there seemed to be some kind of impasse. I don't know what it was, but God has a way of working all things out, And uh, my brother Sugar passed, and Diamond gave me a call and said, "Well, Beck," he said, "whatever bygones that were in the past, let them be bygones, and let's just do this." And so we've been together since.
Hmm. Glad you're able to put those things aside and bring the beautiful music back to the people, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because the music is bigger than holding on to past stuff, man.
Mm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Back in um, the 70s, I know Phaso was sort of a spin out of the group, and I think Satch was most involved with that. Did you also contribute to
Yeah,
Phaso?
I did. You already know.
Yeah, Riding High.
Yeah,
Yeah. Were you surprised when that was such a big hit, too?
yeah. I was equally as surprised. I really was. But I mean, I remember showing Keith Harrison, who had a phenomenal voice and range. Just showing him a few things on the string synthesizer, the ARP string synthesizer, um, and showing him how to not play how less is sometimes more,
Mm.
playing less is more, and stuff, little small things like that. And then I went out and in one take put an organ track on it, and then I actually had three horns to try out for doing solos, and I only wound up keeping snippets of of the best parts because it was really too much. It was over the top, and it was about Phaso, not about the horn players.
Mm. That also a very unique sounding track. I mean, there was nothing like it at the time.
Right.
Yeah. And did you also do some work with Slave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What
Yes,
what
sir.
could people have heard you on with Slave?
Oh my goodness. Now your my memory has to be jogged somewhat because I even did a couple of tours with them. One in Japan and one in Canada with Slave. Yeah, and little known facts, right?
No, I didn't know. What year would you say that was?
Oh, oh, this was in the 80s. '80s was a busy time, real busy for me, almost as busy as the '70s, but creatively much more busier than the '70s, as far as touring with outside of the Ohio Players and writing outside of the Ohio Players.
What can you share anything about Mark Adams as a player?
Oh wow, yeah, he God, he was they were kids in high school when I first met them, and they would always stop. My house was like on the main street, Philadelphia Drive, which would go lead Philadelphia. It would take you straight out to Dayton Airport, and uh, they would always stop at my house to get my opinion on what they were doing. Um, when they came, they stopped by, and when they stopped by with Slide, I said, "That's going to be a hit." And the same, well, Heatwave did the same thing because Johnny and Keith Wilder were also from Dayton. They would stop by my house and stop by with Boogie, and I said, "That's a hit."
Like
Just got it.
a hit parade coming through your house.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's God. God bestowed a certain amount of things upon me, for which I'm very grateful and appreciative, but I'm also very humbled about it. And but I know what I know, and that is undeniable.
Even being an Ohio Players fan like I was all those years, and also being a fan of all the other bands too. I bought all the Slave and all the Lakeside and all the Roger and all of it. Um, Living in Los Angeles and being young, I didn't really put it together that so much of it was coming from this one small little geographic area, you know, and and I had never been, east of California. I hadn't traveled at all, so it was like the other side of the world to me.
Yeah,
And what do you think it is about that area that just was so fertile for this music?
you know what? It was just the right time. The the car plants were booming. The Air Force bases were popular. Uh, there was no excessive crime rate. People weren't shooting and killing each other. People were having fists and maybe stabbings, but all this gunnery play wasn't happening. Okay, and people believed in making a lot more love and peace instead of violence back during that time. There was just more harmony, and the music was in tune with it. And in the Dayton area, when we kicked the door open, it seemed like everyone said, "Okay, let's go through that door." And I mean, we would get asked questions after question about the how tos and it. And to us, it just seemed so normal, like because we were used to doing it on an everyday basis, and it just seemed natural to us. And I guess to a certain point, after a while, once the other groups got the knack of it, it seemed natural to them as well.
You put out your solo record in 2011, Memoirs of a Player, and I think if people watching this, listening to this, haven't heard it, Go check it out. Recommend it because there's a ton of music on there. It's a huge variety. And is it your son that also is musical or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
My youngest son is.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I mean, congratulations on that record too. It was
Thank you.
yeah, a nice accomplishment.
I didn't know you knew about that one. Thank you.
Yeah, I had to update a fire on there even.
Right. Yeah.
So you think you got more music up your sleeve, or what's the future
Oh,
holding?
of course. Of course. I was just talking with my engineer, who's also the owner of this studio, uh, about when could I get back in. He says, man, you just name it. He said, we're corona free here. So, as you can see, the board right here, the keyboard right here. So, I've got I'm in the middle of a gospel project, and then I'm just doing, working on a second solo.
When you look back on all of this, is there a particular composition or arrangement or something that is your favorite or you're most proud of?
Oh, my goodness. Uh, there's so many. There are so many.
Give me three
Uh,
favorites.
oh,
It's Honey. It sounds like Honey might be one of them.
definitely Honey's one of them. Because the inspiration for that came, we were just sitting around talking, and I just heard it in my head, and I jumped up from the control room and ran out to the studio and started messing around with it. And the tape was still rolling, as I told you back in those days, Paragon Studio, the tape always was rolling.
Hmm.
So I came back in and I said, did you save that? I said, stop the tape and play that back. He says he played it back. So I said, that's one of them, Honey. Uh, oh God. Roller Coaster. That was my first time. All those sounds that sound like elaborated reverb sound units on hitting on the 2 and the 4 with diamond snare. That's me playing. That was me I programmed a ARP 2600 where you have to make the sound using a patch bay and patch chords, and you use oscillators for your noise, white noise and stuff like that. And that's also the sound. It sounds like it's a gunshot. And the scream, that's me.
You must have been so amused when that whole thing was.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. I was tickled pink.
Just, I got to say real quick, in case there's viewers or listeners unaware of that, there was a whole rumor in the Love Roller Coaster was a hit song, went to #1 on the pop chart, but there was a scream. I think it's during the breakdown segment of the song, and it's sort of in the background. And there was a rumor going around that some woman had been stabbed or something during the recording in the studio. And
it was like the model on the album hadn't gotten paid her money, so she came to get paid her money. Okay, and we took her in the back and shot her, and you could hear her scream.
Did your PR come up with that idea, or where'd that come from? I wonder.
No, actually, you know what? That came from a DJ out in your country, California DJ. I think it's from San Diego or somewhere down in there, San Diego, San Francisco. He came up with that story. I don't know what he was on that day, but I'm glad he was on it.
Yeah, that was like that's right up there with like Paul McCartney having shoes on the cover of Abbey Road and
Right,
things like
right,
that. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it was right up there.
So you were like a sort of a mad scientist on that one, making those sounds back in those days. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Those were early synthesizer days. You had to make your own sounds with patch bays and chords and oscillators and white noise and envelopes and filters and stuff like that.
Hmm.
These kids know nothing about that.
No. Just like editing tape with razor blades and all that. They don't know that either.
Oh, they know nothing about that. We were so good at editing. We used to have gold chains with gold uh, razor blades. We all used to wear around our necks because not only did we edit on the 24 track, well, excuse me, when we did Skin Tight, that was recorded on 16 track. And then from that to 2 track to quarter track, we did a lot of edits for the 45s and stuff like that. 45s, people are these little round discs they used to make.
Yeah.
Had a big hole in the middle.
I'll never forget when, at first I heard the 45 of Fire, and then when I finally heard the full version, it was like another mind blown. Yeah. So is there a third track, or are we just going to stick with those two, you think?
uh, I'm going to stick with those two. Um,
And off
no,
the same album, too.
Sweet Sticky Thing, Sweet Sticky Thing.
All on Honey, yeah.
Yeah, Sweet Sticky Thing.
What about, was there a stage performance that just stands out to you that maybe something, even if something unfortunate or funny happened, or maybe it was just a crowd that was just really going crazy? Is there one that stands out in particular?
Yeah. There was this one time where um, I think Jones had been drinking a bit too much Cavassier before the show, and he was missing all the cues. I mean, and really behind the pocket and missing parts. And somebody from the audience threw an egg at him. He ducked, and the egg hit Diamond, and then Diamond threw a stick, and Jones ducked again, and it hit Marvin. And I'm over on the other side of the stage, busting gut, trying to hold my composure, trying to sing.
Where was that?
That
What
was,
city?
oh God, where were we? Somewhere down south. We were somewhere down south. I don't remember the song because it all just happened so fast. I know when we went back in the dressing room, everyone started laughing. Diamond was still pissed off because he is still wiping one of the eggs, wiping it out of his hair.
And he
Ah,
had a much bigger afro back then.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and oh man, Yeah, we all, you know what? We all used to have more hair. I used to wear mine long. Now it's short. Still got perm and stuff, but it's just I got great grandkids now. They're not having great grands that walk around with all that long thing.
Great grandkids, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
Whoever I never thought I'd see that either, okay? It's another blessing.
Wow. So many blessings for sure.
Yeah.
When you guys were in your heyday, how much did you keep an eye on like the competition groups? Like at the time, I had my best friend. He was an Earth, Wind, and Fire guy, and I was always the Ohio Players guy, and to me, the Ohio Players funk was always a little more raw, which I liked better. But did you guys keep your eyes on those other groups?
Uh, Actually, they were quiet as it's kept. Uh, Verdine and Philip were two of my best friends. Uh, uh, I think Satch and Maurice were kind of head-to-head rivals. Um, and There was always that thing about us being on the same show to see which band was the best. And in fact, there was one show that we had with them that we were late getting to. And we were the opening act. So when we got there, they would not let us in,
Wow.
right? Because we were about half hour late. And I think we only had like about a 45-minute to 50-minute window. So they wouldn't let us in. So that was the show that would have proved it all, right?
Wow.
The show that never happened.
That would have been quite a showdown. That's too bad. Is it true that the Ohio Players actually went to the wrong Hollywood once, to like Hollywood, Florida instead of Hollywood, California?
That happened a couple times. That Hollywood, California, and South Hollywood, Florida, and also what's that other one that's in the South? Um, there's a city. There's a city in New York, Albany. We went to Albany, New York, when we were supposed to be in Albany, Georgia.
Wow. So the shows get canceled, or did you like hightail it to where you're supposed to be? Or
Well, I know for the one in Georgia, the one in the first one that you mentioned, we made the show up, okay. But the one in Georgia, the promoter, but he lost his shoes on that gig. So the next time that we came down there in the state of Georgia, he had an injunction ready, and after the show, they locked up all of our equipment until he got restitution.
hmm.
Yeah, he was still pissed off about it. And he must have lost big time.
Wow.
Yeah, but they actually took all of our equipment until we paid them.
Well, misadventures from the road. No wonder you stuck closer to the studio of the '80s.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'd love the traveling. Now that I'm older, I'm loving the traveling again. Okay, but I guess for that at that point in my life, I was really in one of my most creative states, and I just wanted to keep creating.
Do you feel that the Ohio players have gotten all the respect and credit that they should through the years?
I think, and I'm hoping, and let me say this properly, that in years to come, that people will see, because we're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Hmm.
Uh, in years to come, people will see that we definitely deserve to be so. There are things that, and people, there's things we've done music-wise and written with and for people in the music industry, and that have furthered things, and as far as their hits in their careers that people aren't aware of. So there's still things yet to be discovered.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame for sure. That's glaring. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it is.
You know, I hope that they get it right while you and Diamond and Chet can still really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. Uh, we're we're not spring chickens anymore. We're still hanging in there though.
What are the shows like today?
They're very exciting. The I've got the horns or I've got the horns popping. Everybody's moving on stage. We've got three guitars,
Wow.
uh, two keyboard players, one being myself, and one bass player, which is Darwin Dorch, and Diamond on drums, and I'm the MD. So I've kind of got I can kind of hear when the wrong note is in the wrong spot at any point in time in the show. And I'm a very strict uh, disciplinarian, should I say, about that.
Yeah, you keep people on their toes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep coming to Ohio Players shows. We are definitely the funk masters. Keep the funk alive.
Beautifully said, and I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much for doing this, Billy. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for all the great music over the years.
Thank you, man. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Likewise. Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to the Funk and Stuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies here like TIR quick takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two, we could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkandstuff.net website, and on the right hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at scottg@funkandstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.